Hello to those tuning in to chat about the 54th Nashville Film Festival, which will take place this September 28 through October 4. That's right, we are turning 54, which makes us one of the oldest film festivals in the South and one of the longest running festivals in the U.S. We were founded in 1969 by Mary Jane Coleman under the name Sinking Creek Festival, which was in East Tennessee, and later moved to Nashville. And in 1998, the name was changed to the Nashville Independent Film Festival and shortened to Nashville Film Festival in 2003.
Now, here we are 20 years later, excited to continue the tradition of bringing the community together in support of independent film, music, and culture. Joining us today are the lovely and talented programming team behind curating the official film selections for the Nashville Film Festival this year. First, I would like to introduce our programming director, Lauren Thielen. Lauren has over 8 years' experience working in the film festival industry. With a background focusing on media literacy and programming, Lauren was previously the education manager at Cinema Chicago and the Chicago International Film Festival and director of the Chicago International Film Festival's youth-focused Cine Youth Film Festival. Through her experiences working with students in the Chicago community, she developed an eye for approaching film from both entertainment and educational perspectives. An important aspect to her programming is placing both an emphasis on the craft of cinema and the power it holds to teach and promote cross-cultural understanding. Lauren graduated with a BA in Media and Cinema Studies and a minor in History from DePaul University. As a film theory professional, Lauren is passionate about executing community-driven programming, educating on the power of film, and of course, offering audiences a safe space to laugh, cry, smile, and feel all the emotions.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce my colleague sitting right next to me, Jennifer Bonnier. A producer of all things producible, Jennifer has love for storytelling in all its forms and has seen her work screened across the globe. She got her start in the industry competing in the 48-hour film project in film school, but after winning Best in Nashville several times, she moved on to tackling new challenges. Jennifer went on to run the 48-hour film project as the city producer for 5 years and is now our graveyard shift programmer for the Nashville Film Festival. She has also made a name for herself as a writer, director, producer, developing award-winning commercials, music videos, and short and feature-length films. While she's worked in several different genres, she takes the most joy out of stories that blend the endearing with the macabre and is one half of the female horror duo Wild Bones. But at her day job as a producer at Five Stone Studios, the horror content is kept to a minimum, much to her dismay.
Moving on, I'd like to introduce our Tennessee Features and Shorts programmer, Kate Lemberg. After having received her BA and MA in Cinema Studies, Kate has pursued a career on the film festival circuit in the United States. While she began her career on the ground as a venue manager and in ticketing, having previously done so at Sundance, Tribeca, Doc NYC, True False Hamptons, New Fest, and more, she is turning her focus more to programming and artist development. She's a staff programmer at River Run in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Nashville Film Festival here in Nashville, Tennessee. The associate manager of industry relations and artist programs at Point North Institute, a member of the screening committees for Tribeca Film Festival and Rooftop Films, and the producer of Tribeca's Creators Market and the previous market producer at Doc NYC.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to introduce our shorts programmer, Robert John Torres. Robert is a film festival programmer based in Los Angeles, California. He has previously curated lineups at Palm Springs Short Fest, Doc NYC, Outfest, Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, and more. All really amazing festivals.
Great to be here.
Next up, we have our documentary and music documentary feature programmer, Julia Kipnis. Julia is a film programmer also based in Los Angeles. She is a features programmer at AFI Fest and documentary programmer for Nashville Film Festival. She has worked with Outfest, Sundance, and New York Film Festival, among others, and has curated in collaboration with the Alamo Drafthouse and Women in Windows. Last but certainly not least, our associate features and music video programmer, Taylor Lomax. Taylor is based in Los Angeles as well, and has been obsessed with pop culture ever since he first laid eyes on his mom's Entertainment Weekly as a child. Outside of Nashville Film Festival, he works in PR and has written entertainment pieces for Vulture, the AV Club, and Paste, among others. His favorite movie of all time is Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, and his favorite director/general idol is John Waters. Taylor was not able to join us today, but will be at the festival for Q&As and lots of cinephile conversations.
We are one impressive group of people.
Yes.
If I have to say so myself. Now let's talk about what makes the Nashville Film Festival so special. The films, of course. There is a lot of thought, care, and nuance that goes into selecting films for our festival and festivals in general. It's more than just watching a movie and saying that was good or I didn't like that. The reasons behind our decisions as programmers are complex and tedious. I would like to start off by asking Kate and Robert, what draws you to a film?
Yeah, thank you. Just to give everyone a kind of perspective as to what it's like from the programming angle. We have a software that we use called Film Freeway, and we log in. There are just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of films listed and submitted to us. And, as a programmer, things can start to blend together after a while. You see filmmakers using a lot of similar sources of inspiration or references. And so when you come upon something that is like wholly original, very distinct, very fresh, kind of reveals itself to you. And that's a lot of what the process is like. You get asked, oh, I bet you see a lot of really kind of like bad stuff. And that's really not the case. There's a lot of great talent out there, across the world, but so much of it blends together after a while. And so when you encounter something that really is just like wonderfully rich, singular, unique, it just leaps out. I always quote Guillermo del Toro, who tells filmmakers, don't make the film you think you need to make the film that needs you in order to be made. And I think that really speaks to like that really beautiful idea of just like singular filmmaking. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, for me, I feel similarly. I think for me, what I'm looking for is a strong sense of vision, and that can unfold in a number of different ways. That can be a really strong sense of character in the screenplay, or it can be a really fresh take on cinematography with really strong color or unique shots or editing choices. Because it feels similar where a lot of films blend together because they're using a lot of the same aesthetic choices. And so I like to see an original take in that realm.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with everything you guys just mentioned. And for me, I would also add it's this sort of element of discovery and, what I'm learning and seeing and hearing and experiencing that feels new to me. And when you get that feeling, as you guys were mentioning, after watching a film out of hundreds and hundreds and thousands of titles, it's really exciting. So I'm curious to hear from Jennifer. How do you determine a film's quality as programming can be very subjective?
Yeah, it's definitely very subjective, but I feel like I'm in a unique position where I program the graveyard shift competition. So that's something very specific. Graveyard shift generally means it's something, a psychological thriller, a horror. It's a genre-specific thing. And so I feel like I have an advantage when it comes to determining the quality of that because a good graveyard shift film is going to understand the genre that it's being a part of. It's hopefully going to be doing something that is playing with those traditional tropes. It's going to be pushing the boundaries of what a traditional horror film can be. So for me, quality isn't just, hey, does it look nice? Is it edited well? Does it sound good? It's also, do you understand the genre and the world that you're playing in, and are you taking advantage of it and making the best film possible?
Absolutely. And really quick, I just want to ask a question to you, Jennifer, because you're talking so much about a very specific genre, and there's many subgenres within the horror theme.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about just a couple of those subgenres that you love to really find out of the the pile of films, or you like to try and hit every year?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So I am a lover of all horror. So, and I know when I say horror, a lot of people just think, oh, slasher, check that box. Jump scare, check that box. For me, I love to have a wide variety of films. So I tend to like to have one that's going to be more in that psychological horror scope. So it's something that is going to make me really think. I'm going to leave that theater feeling like I just took the SATs because that film made me sit down and process something deep. And I love a film that is going to also make me get scared. So hopefully something that's going to have some sort of monster, a demon possession, something that is a little otherworldly. I like to kind of check that box as well. And then I also love to have something, if we can, that is in that supernatural world. Yes. I feel like sci-fi also really tends to fit very well into this world, so I'm always looking for that. But, and we'll talk a little bit about this a little later on when I get to share with you some of the programming for this year. But I feel like one of the nice things about horror is, on a human level, we all understand fear. We all understand what it is to be afraid. But when you start to look at fear from the perspective of different cultures, you get really unique perspectives on this genre. And so we always try to include a foreign language or an other culture film. So we've got a really good one this year that I'll talk with you about in a little bit.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Yeah. Well, sorry. Talking y'all's heads off. Now, we all know that just because a film isn't selected for our festival, though, it doesn't mean that it's bad or not good enough. There are many reasons behind why a film is ultimately chosen to program. This is an open question. But besides the overall quality of a film, what are a few other reasons that you might like to program a title?
I can answer this one. I'm really interested in films that have a unique or distinct vision or break the mold in terms of visual style or their approach to storytelling. For me, like the most exciting and compelling movies don't follow a specific formula. We look for movies in Nashville that create a desire for conversation or maybe even debate. A film we're really excited about showing is Another Body, which focuses on the rapid escalation of AI technology and how deepfaking affects the lives of college students. So that's definitely going to inspire some discussion. Yeah, and for like programming documentaries, we lean towards showcasing stories that feel relevant to the Nashville audience, but also stories that introduce us to communities and individuals that are normally overlooked, like the deaf community in The Tuba Thieves or the experience of a 29-year-old nun in Natalia. We aim to program films that spark curiosity and inspire compassion, and we want the films we show to build community and encourage that joy in collective watching.
I would just like to add two other reasons as to why you program a film. I could really get into the very technical aspect of programming as to, you know, how many screens we have access to. That affects the films we program and why we choose certain films for certain categories. Also, you know, taking a look at local films versus films that aren't made in your state or even in the country, kind of dividing those up and deciding what categories they go into is like a whole puzzle and a really long process. So we are very excited for our local filmmakers, and which is why we have two sections. We have our Tennessee features, we have our Tennessee shorts, and we use this as a platform to really build up our local talent and our local community. And I think just because it is made by local filmmakers and a lot of local people attend, I think this is definitely a huge draw for our filmmakers coming in from out of the country and out of state to see what we have to offer here in Nashville. So again, could get into a whole litany of things on the programming spectrum, but I won't. I will save that discussion because I think it would really bore our audiences. But that was just a little something I wanted to say. Now I'd like for everyone to talk more specifically about their programming sections this year, and to give our audience a description of your overall slate, kind of the ethos behind your programming specifically for the Nashville Film Festival, as well as call out a couple films that our audience watching definitely shouldn't miss come the fall. So Jennifer, would you like to start?
Yeah, so diving back into the graveyard shift. Okay, we've got quite a few features this year, but the couple that I'd love to call attention to are, first of all, one called The Sacrifice Game. So this one is a lot of fun to me because it checks those like classic horror boxes. It's set in the 1970s. It's set at Christmas, which some of my favorite horror films are set at Christmas, as dark as that may sound. It's got cult killers coming into a small community and trying to sacrifice a series of people to summon a demon. So it's just everything I'm looking for in a classic horror film. It's really playing with those wonderful tropes, but it's also got a really fun little twist to it that I can't share with you, but there's a really sweet friendship, very dark, scary. And on the converse, we have a film that is also discussing demons and possession, but it's an Argentinian film, which is very cool. Like I was talking about earlier, we love to incorporate films from other cultures, but it's really nice this year that we have that juxtaposition of a film that centers around a demon, and it is a US-made film, and another film that, again, is about demons, but is being told from this other culture's perspective. That film is troubling, to say the least. There are some very, very dark moments. It will linger with you. Like I was talking earlier, that is when you're going to walk away and just feel like, all right, I need to go watch Bambi or something really happy for a moment, because that one's going to stick with you. So that film is called When Evil Lurks, directed by Damien Rugna. I really recommend that. And the first one I was talking about was called The Sacrifice Game, directed by Jen Wexler. Very excited for those two features. I hope you'll see them. Our shorts program, which we are calling Cause and Effect, because it is all about the consequences of our actions. And in the horror world, consequences are pretty bad, usually. That one's got a series of short films that I'm really excited about, but we're dealing with everything from the consequences of deciding to become a serial killer, what that looks like, what your life is like. It's a little existential conversation in a short film called Murder Camp. Very excited for that one in the program. There's also a film that talks about the consequences of becoming obsessed with true crime and just that whole movement on television these days. So that's a really great one, as well as just the consequences of watching that creepy VHS. Don't do it. So really great lineup. Very excited about the program this year.
I definitely would not miss what Jennifer has programmed this year. So moving on, I'd like to talk a bit more about our narrative feature competition, as well as our new directors competition, which is feature debuts. One of the films that I'm really excited for our audiences to see, it's a feature debut, is called Free Time. It's from the director Ryan Martin Brown. And it's about this character named Drew, played by a comedian named Colin Burgess. He's in his mid-20s. He's living in Brooklyn, New York. And the film starts off with a scene of him just kind of what seems like randomly going in and talking to his boss and quitting his job. It's very humorous. And he says he wants to quit to focus on his passions and really take hold of life. But he quickly... we quickly, as an audience, find he has really no passions and really nothing substantial to work towards. And this film it's a comedy. It's the right amount of cringy and awkward. It just hits those points in all the right ways. I feel like it really captures what it means to be a millennial, which I think we all are here on this segment. And what I took out of it was, and I think part of the film really resonated with, just things I've observed from my friends and exaggerations I've observed of our generation, and that's maybe we need jobs, but we don't really want them. So I highly encourage you to go see that one. We also have a wonderful film in our narrative feature competition called Drift, directed by Anthony Chen. The film stars Cynthia Erivo and Aliyah Shawkat. It follows a young Liberian refugee who who escapes her war-torn country to this beautiful Greek island. And she meets an American tour guide living on the island, and through kind of like these unintentional happenstance sort of running into each other, they become very close, and they find that they need each other to lean on for hope. It's beautifully shot. It'll make you want to go to Greece. It is just, it's a really unique film, and I highly recommend going to see it. The acting is also very good. And then one more I want to talk about is a film called A Strange Path, directed by Guto Parente. This won the Best International Narrative Feature at Tribeca Film Festival this year. And it's about a young filmmaker who returns to see his father. And it takes place during the pandemic, so something we can all relate to. And as it's rapidly kind of accelerating across Brazil. And the film sort of delves into their strained relationship, all the while really keeping the audience on their toes by kind of introducing these bizarre phenomena and these very sort of eerie and otherworldly circumstances that happen between the two of them. And it really leaves you guessing as to, like, is this a dream? Is it reality? What's happening right now? So those are my picks. Robert, let's hear about shorts this year.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. So I program the narrative, documentary, and animation competitions here at Nashville. This is my 5th year doing it, and like you said earlier, Lauren, Nashville is the oldest film festivals in the U.S., and therefore we have this distinction of being what's known as an Academy Award qualifier. So when you watch the Oscars and you see those films that you've never heard of before, for the shorts categories, you sort of ask yourself, like, what are these movies? How did they, arrive at this distinction? And typically what happens is that they play at an Academy Award qualifying festival, sort of top tier festivals in the US, which Nashville is. And you win a prize at a festival that's an Academy of qualifier, and then you thus sort of open the door for yourself to sort of move on to campaign and ultimately maybe hopefully get a nomination. And so I've had the privilege to be able to organize those programs here. And I want to highlight today our animation showcase. As like kind of casual moviegoer, we really are pretty limited in like the kinds of animation that we are exposed to. We see Pixar, maybe some G Kids and anime, and that's really it, in our like Cineplex. And what I try to do for our animation showcase is really be able to present like the wide breadth of independent animation, like idiosyncratic animation, international forms of animation, and to sit down and watch. I think there's 10 films in this showcase. Just the scope of styles, perspectives, approaches to the form. It's just so mind-blowing, always visually dazzling. It's like a really exciting to be able to engage with. And unique to like a festival, the venture. You can't really see these sort of films in other places outside of a festival setting. Similarly, I'll also point out our documentary showcases. We've got 2 blocks of documentary shorts this year. One of them called Close Knit, which are all kind of like family stories. These are a lot of filmmakers kind of pointing the camera back on themselves, their families, which, always ripe for drama, intensity, mystery, humor, heart, really, again, wide swath of just like approaches to documentary. Again, I feel like what makes it to our mainstream cinemas is a very specific kind of approach to nonfiction filmmaking, and these short blast that wide open, show us, this medium is very elastic, and there's, a lot that we can really do with it. So I want to highlight that. And then last, I'll also say that I program The Edge, which is our experimental sidebar. And this year, I won't say too much, but we've got some like big names in the experimental world, which maybe means they're small names in the regular world. But if you know, you know, and it's going to be a really fun, cool, nerdy enterprise. And if you're looking to do something a little edgy, I highly recommend you check out The Edge. So thank you guys.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Robert. And speaking of blowing the documentary genre wide open, I want to move on to our documentaries. So, Julia, let's talk about some of your picks this year.
Yes, let's talk docs. Okay, so this year in our doc sections, we focus on true stories about incredible individuals from diverse perspectives. This year, we've seen a lot of really interesting and compelling work that delve into a couple of like general themes that we've been drawn to. So one of them being sort of the contemporary state of the digital world and the digital age that we're currently in, and the progress of technology, which we see in the film I mentioned earlier, Another Body. Also in an amazing film called Caterpillar, which is a favorite among our team, and also Time Bomb Y2K, which is all found footage about the coming of the new millennium. So yeah, the digital age, and also a lot of our docs this year are concerned with with the modern age as it compares to the past, and the state of Americans around the country, and how we've been affected by recent historical change and pioneers and change makers of today and the recent past. So we can see that in Plan C, Black Barbie, um, a few music docs about Joan Baez and Gloria Gaynor. So yeah, we have a pretty stacked lineup. And even though I mentioned those films, I do want to specifically call out a few that I'm really excited for. One in our documentary competition called Plan C, which is an incredibly important topical doc about access to abortion pills in the United States at the onset of COVID through the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Also, in our music doc section, we have a film called Patria y Vida, which stands for Homeland and Life, as a translation. And that tells the wildly true story and impact of the power of music, and specifically one song that inspired a revolution in Cuba. So you don't want to miss that film. And also in our music doc section is a film called Uncharted, which goes behind the scenes of a songwriting camp that's run by Alicia Keys and gives major music industry access to young Black and Brown women. So yeah, we have a very stacked lineup. So I better see you all at the documentary screenings.
Amazing. Yes, we're very excited. Thank you, Julia. And now, also very excited to introduce to have Kate tell us about the Tennessee features and shorts this year.
I'm super excited to join the Nashville programming team this year in the role of the Tennessee programmer. This is my first year. And I actually lived in Nashville last year for a little while, and it's such a wonderful community, and I'm really glad to be a part of it again in this way, despite the fact that I no longer live in Nashville. What's so fun about being a Tennessee programmer is I get to play in features and shorts, narrative and documentary. And so the world is my oyster in a way, especially given how incredible all of our local Tennessee talent is. I'll start with a feature that I want to highlight, which is called All the Wrong Ingredients, directed by Nicholas Livanos. One thing I really loved about this feature is that, yes, while Nicholas is the director, he's actually a professor at a university in Tennessee and in Chattanooga specifically. And the crew is made up of all of his students. And they actually did a really incredible job. It's really fun. It takes place in the world of fine dining. So if you're a fan of The Bear, highly recommend that you check this one out. But it's a little more supernatural-ish in a way. It's about a driven young chef who partners with his chaotic imaginary friend to make the one singular dessert that will prevent him from getting blacklisted from the fine dining industry forever. It takes a lot of turns that I was not expecting. And again, I was really impressed by the collaborative nature of the filmmaking process. And I feel like it's a real highlight of what the Tennessee film community can do. And then I also have a couple of shorts blocks I'd really like to talk about. It's funny that Jennifer and Lauren, you guys are talking about folks who aren't a fan of horror and how to approach horror. So definitely surprised myself when I decided to do a genre block myself. I was impressed by how it seemed like Tennessee talent was really coalescing around the idea of doing genre films. And so I was seeing so many impressive horror and sci-fi films come through that really showcase local talent. So I have a genre block that is made up of some different types of horror films and sci-fi films as well, that even for somebody who doesn't do well with horror like me, I think you can still enjoy. And I also want to highlight this block I put together around the theme of place. And that's one thing I think that's really fun about this block, is that it's not necessarily about like the quality of film. Not every film in here is like so perfectly shot, but what it really is about the quality of subject. There are both narrative and documentary films in this block. One film that I love, for example, really highlights the location that it's shot in, which is this beautiful old hotel in Chattanooga. Whereas another one, highlights this really incredible theater making organization in Nashville that spotlights actors who have different disabilities and don't necessarily get to be on stage normally. And so it's a really great opportunity to highlight the talent of the state at large, not just the film talent.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you guys for going into detail there. And I'd also like to remind our audience that the Nashville Film Festival has several different tracks during the 7 days. Outside of the film screenings, we host the Creators Conference on Friday, September 29th, which will feature panel discussions on film budgeting, indie film creators and producers, virtual production, and lots more.
We also will be hosting our first ever collaboration with Catalyst Content Festival on Saturday, September 30th, called Pitch World, where you can come and watch individuals pitch their episodic concepts. The pitch is meant to educate and support aspiring writers, filmmakers, and artists.
We'll also be hosting several music showcases, Q&As, and networking opportunities. It's going to be an amazing year filled with over 130 films from around the world and right here in Tennessee for you to watch. Whether you're an avid film festival goer and cinephile or someone who has never been to a film festival before, there's a bag of popcorn and a seat waiting for you at the movies. Now, I want to thank our programmers, Julia, Kate, Jennifer, and Robert for joining us today and lending their knowledge. And I want to thank you for watching us. I hope you join us this fall at the Nashville Film Festival. Please visit our website and social media for more information on tickets, events, and general updates. Bye.